Hi, and welcome to this episode of Consciousness and Me. My name is Josephine, and the topic of today is to be honest with ourselves. A big part of self exploration, or to look into the self and to question where we have our identity, if we're identified with things that are not really ourselves, is to start to be honest with ourselves, to be honest with what we actually identify, what's alive within us, what are we feeling, what are we thinking. What projections do we do to other people and to ourselves? And it might sound like an easy thing to do, but if you've tried it, I'm sure you might have the same experience that I do, that it can be quite tricky. We have a lot of defense mechanisms in place that doesn't really want us to be honest with ourselves. And it comes in all shapes and forms. It can come as judgment. It can come as making ourselves smaller than we are. It can come as anger outbursts. Yes, you name it, there's probably a version of it. Mm. So, how do we do if we want to be honest with ourselves? It's not always going to be comfortable to be honest with ourselves because we might discover things on the way of unraveling our way back to actually what are we really, um, what's behind it all. But the journey back can be a bit uncomfortable. Say, for example, that um, you're not really feeling like you belong in a room of people, and your defense mechanism might be to start judging people. Oh, they're not good at that, and look at that outfit, and oh, at least they're not blah, blah, blah. I think you recognize it. I think we all have it to some extent, but we don't like to talk about it. So if I decide to not look at my judge, to really look at why am I judging these people, I might see that actually I'm trying to make myself bigger, or to somehow make them less valuable than me so that we even out that gap. Okay, so why is it important for me to feel like that? Does that mean that I'm actually not feeling very valuable at the moment, for example, or I don't feel like I belong? And actually, the price I pay is judging them, meaning I can't really connect with them. But at least I don't have to feel my insecurity. I don't have to feel like I don't belong. So to stop judging, to be honest with that that's not truth, that means I'm gonna have to sit with the discomfort instead, feeling the feelings. Yeah. And sometimes we might not be ready to do that. Or maybe we've noticed that someone crossed a boundary of mine and that didn't feel good. But to speak up, that would be to create conflict. And that's super scary, so I don't want to do that. So being honest with ourselves could come as at a cost, or we might have to feel things we're not ready for. So then we a little bit think that then we shouldn't be honest with ourselves because I might not be ready to do the change, or I might not be ready to feel the feeling. Well, that's a bit of a pitfall. That's probably the ego speaking, of not wanting to be discovered and not wanting to be seen through. Actually, we can be honest with ourselves even before we're ready to make any real change. Let's say the example of someone crossing my boundary, and I want to say that that's not okay for me, is a reaction that would be appropriate, but I don't feel like doing that. I can be honest about that as well. I can see what's happening, and I can see that there's fear coming up, and there's fear uh, of conflict. And I can even see that right now I don't really have the resources, or I don't have the courage to face the fear. So I'd rather not do it. And that's also honesty. And that's the way we start to practice. So by seeing what's alive in us doesn't necessarily mean we have to change it straight away. We can be honest that there's a resource lacking. And the thing that does, it builds trust with ourselves. We don't have to hide anything. We can see our own insecurities. They're not a flaw of our true being. They're just a part of this conditioning that's manifesting right now. And any value I have about it, oh, I shouldn't really be nervous, well, that's just another thought. I can be honest about that as well. And for me, this is a little bit the flavor of meditation, of practicing to be completely truthful with yourself, of resting in truth, of observing everything that comes out inside of us, even our own resistance. Oh, it's so boring to sit and meditate. I don't want to be here anymore. I can observe that. And then I can observe the other part that's like, oh, I shouldn't be bored now. Oh, look at that's interesting. So this journey of starting to be truthful with ourselves, it can start at any time. It doesn't mean we have to do radical changes. It doesn't mean we have to deep dive into wounds that we have. We can be honest with that we're not ready for that. Notice if that changes your relationship to look at truth. And even if we do a bit of an exercise, what is the truth inside of you this moment? What thoughts are going through your head? Are there any emotions making themselves feel present? Are you allowing yourself to feel them, or is there resistance towards them? And if there's any part of you that wants to edit or narrate how you experience your inner world, notice that you can notice that as well. The thought that, oh, it should be like this, is actually just a thought, and it can be noticed that it's there. Even if you find this too difficult, that's something to be truthful with. Right now, there's a thought that finds this too difficult, scary. And check in with your body. Sometimes we subconsciously are almost afraid to go into our bodies because we don't want to notice that we're tensed. As if we notice that we're tensed, then we have to do something about it immediately. But that's not true. That's just a perspective. We can do something about it, but we need not. We can choose. Seeing what's alive doesn't require any action, doesn't require us to change anything. Being truthful with ourselves is basically just being with what is. And not only being with the things that are nice, that are good, that are desirable, maybe even more important to be with all of these stuff that we don't really appreciate, the feelings that we don't want to feel, the belief patterns that we have that we would rather pretend we didn't have, those side of us that can be jealous, that can be judging, envious, or those part of us that are somehow an expression of something that hasn't been allowed in our lives. Maybe we don't allow ourselves to be playful. Maybe we don't allow ourselves to be sensual. So when those things come up, when they surface, maybe a little, just tipping to the surface, we shut them down. We pretend that they're not there. We don't even want to see them. But we don't have to allow them to see this unfolding. We can see them tapping to the surface, and we can see our resistance. We can watch ourselves shut it down. I don't know, maybe you are accustomed to this way of thinking, or maybe you're completely new to it. But it can be quite exciting. I know there was a time in my life when I thought that I was pretty sane. Well, that has shattered, or maybe the other way around. I have redefined what sane means. I have a whole cacophony of thoughts, of judgers, of victim voices, of longing for things, of judging myself, self-critical thoughts, self-loving thoughts, songs playing in my head. The more I listen, the more I notice, the more subtle things you can notice in your body or in your emotions, in your thought patterns. And when you don't attach an agenda to change it, with the fact that you notice it, it becomes so much more freer. Like meditating through life. Allowing it all. Even allowing your no, you're not allowing. To be truthful. Hmm. I think that's all I wanted to say on this topic for now. Thank you for listening in, and if you have any questions or comments, please do comment below. Thank you.